Welcome to TorahTalk, brothers and sisters. Welcome to TorahTalk, brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters.
Breaking my heart with your unbelief. I ain't gonna wait forever. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? You're either hot or you are cold. And people, it's all or nothing now. People now.
Brothers and sisters, welcome to the TorahTalk Show with Lew White and Mark Davidson.
The Sharp Sickle Series,
a Torah Institute production.
The information discussed in this episode of Torah Talk can be found in a book called Fossilized Customs by Lew White, and you can order this from www.torahzone.net. Get a copy now along with the scriptures ISR and find out what the controversy is all about for yourself. Join the global revolution today.
Alright, that's enough. Oh dear, well, that was a drama.
What do you expect for free?
I know, that's it. I don't know that the paid version would be much better.
What a blessing it is to have it.
What a blessing it is to have this connection, though.
Yeah.
It's so amazing to see you every week. This week, just this morning, I woke up and I was thinking of all the things that happened in the world this week. And our week has been just amazing. Just some things that we had to take care of that were really serious. And we'll go into that later off the air. But, the last night or sometime during the day that has been appearing on the earth, Russia was struck by a meteorite shower over a large area, 125 miles, 125 kilometers, I'm not sure which. It's real sketchy right now. There's video, and when I said that it looked like a meteorite was coming in your wall, it was just a lamp, but they have pictures of these meteorites streaking across the sky, and we're probably going to be seeing a lot of video appearing. And it reminds me of the days of Sodom and Gomorrah, and like the prophecies of the end times, signs in the heavens, and that rocks would be falling from the skies. And on February 14th was apparently what they call Valentine's Day, and there was a meteor that was supposed to be passing very close, or an asteroid very close to the Earth on the 15th of the Roman month, which is today for us. Had you heard?
No, I don't even have a TV, so we haven't heard anything. Ah.
Well, yeah, we only hear the internet stuff, but I heard about this a while back, and a week or two ago, I was listening and watching articles appear about this new visit. Well, it's supposed to be traveling at something like 15,000 miles per hour, and it's going to come between us and the moon.
Ah.
Yeah. What do you think?
Is that gonna do something to the whatever's happening between us and the moon? It's
I
not
doubt
gravity,
that.
is it?
I don't know how they can even get the trajectory so accurate, but it's going to pass pretty close to us.
Mm.
And it would cause, if it struck us, it would really be really catastrophic. But a lot of times associated with these visitors, these meteors, or let's call them near-Earth objects, there's usually a little spray of a parade of other debris, and that's probably related to what happened in Russia too. There's a cloud that they can't see,
So is there a lot of devastation?
Yes, there's been a lot of property damage. Several people are seriously injured. No one's died, as far as I've heard so far. But there were, as far as I've heard, the reports are sketchy, but hundreds of people have been injured by debris, because it struck something like 6 cities.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's full on.
And then there was the earthquake that was right off of Australia that caused tsunami warnings. That was almost a week ago. And that was scary because that was up there near, where Chris and Victoria are. And all the people that live up in that area, in that beautiful area. And then there was, what else? What else happened? Well, something about some kind of magisterium.
Oh yeah, the Pope's resigning. I didn't know he was allowed to do that.
Oh yeah. Well, it hasn't happened, they say, in some 600-year period, but he was too old probably when he came into office. But we also know that the butler did it, like Tom Horn mentioned. The butler was blowing the horn, as they say, about some kind of financial fiasco, and that happened about 4 weeks ago, and we were hearing that in the news about, oh yeah, somebody's been caught with his hands in the till, or giving somebody jobs and money, and but it's all basically the same problems with see, the thing that most people don't know is the word magisterium. It just means the teacher, the teaching facility, the center of teaching. Magister means teacher, so the magisterium, and it's known as the magisterium. And they're not teaching much, actually. They're just sort of standing up and saying 4 or 5 words, and everybody goes, wow, did you hear that? And he said it in Latin. Come on. And, what? Anyway, I'm not getting a lot of teaching out of the guy. But I really think that there's 2 figureheads on the earth that I don't know that they're so much religious as they are political. They just have this front that looks religious, but really it's got a political agenda. And that's what many people have discovered, that the Roman Catholic system is really a political entity, a monstrosity, a tyrant that's been parading or masquerading and posing as a religious institution. But in fact, it's what is behind the World Bank and the financial markets and the the power of the whole world, United Nations, and so forth. But the operation of the Jesuits is actually behind the scenes all the time. They're infiltrators, but they're also teachers. Anyway, the apparatus, One of the things that appeared to me was that there's 2 figures on the earth. You don't ever hear about when the Eastern Orthodox patriarch retires or dies. It might be just a blip, but nobody gets excited. Nobody burns votes in ovens and watches for the color of the smoke.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, the 2 people.
That's the conclave, isn't it?
Yeah.
I watched Angels and Demons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's two people. There's the papacy,
Mm.
and then there's this other thing that they call the Dalai Lama.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Dalai Lama.
Mm.
And that means, basically, Dalai means the highest, and Lama is just a common Tibetan word for monk, the highest monk.
Mm.
So, anyway, where do you think monks came from? Israel?
Oh, no, I read that in your book at one point. I've forgotten now.
Yeah, monks didn't come from Israel.
No.
The faith in Abraham, the faith of Abraham, Ishak, and Yaakov doesn't know anything about monks or nuns. Those are temple prostitutes, people like that from pagan religion and systems. The Komar, if anybody wants to spell that, it's Komar. They can look it up. The dark robed ones, the ones that wear dark, the ones that wear black. I'm wearing black today. I'm not a monk, Yeah. However, anyway, the Dalai Lama and the Pope seem to be these two figureheads that whenever there's a disruption in them, then anything happens to them that, everybody wrings their hands and becomes upset. What are we going to do? Anyway,
what's the political system or what have you behind the Dalai Lama? I didn't know he had much to contribute in the end game.
Well, I think it's the voice that he bears, and I don't know that he's said anything violent at all. He always says things that are very peaceful, but the microphone that he has is so loud that it outshouts the government. And so what happened in, I think it was the 1950s, they exiled him, or he went into exile from Tibet into India because of the persecution from the Chinese government, So I don't know that it's, the political machine is affected by just about anything that competes with it. And I don't know why there can't be cooperation, the love, because that's what the Torah is all about. If you were to sum it all up, Yahuwah said it hangs from the Torah and the prophets hang on two things, and that is to love Yahuwah, and how to love him is in the commandments, and then to love your neighbor, and that's the 10 words or the 10 commandments, and the whole thing can be summed up in love one another, and if you love one another, then you have reached, you put others before yourself. So, and Yahusha said that whatever you wish to be done to you, do that to your neighbor. So if you're thinking about putting up a website that attacks somebody, let's say a brother, and if you want that to be done to you, then you can go ahead and do that to them. But that's just the whole idea of whatever it is that you would want to be done to you, then that's what you need to be doing to your neighbor. And even your enemy. If you want your enemy, you shouldn't do anything to your enemy that you would not want done to you.
Wow. Just got to let them have it.
Yeah. While they're telling you that they want to buy some smudge, some sage or something to burn to clean the, what is it they say? These people come into our shop and they say, do you have any sage? And I go, well, what seems to be the problem? And this woman said, well, I moved into a new apartment and there's all kinds of spiritual problems in this place. Like the spiritual problems are in the place. There are spiritual problems in her, is what it is, and surrounding her. But she thinks that if she burns some kind of sweet grass or sage, that will make the spirits or the forces depart. Maybe they'll go bother somebody else. Maybe they'll come bother me or bother you.
Yeah.
Well, smudging is what they call it. And the Pope does that too with incense. You know, they'll get these little brass things and they'll put coal in it, put incense on it, and then go up and down the aisles, you know, with that. Like that's something that's supposed to be done. Well, it's smudging, you know, that's cleansing. Cleansing the negative energy. That's what they call them. Well, what do you think those energies are? They're spiritual beings that are much more powerful than we are, and they can see us. We can't see them. They're spirit beings. They're spatial beings, and that smoke doesn't mean anything to them.
No.
You know,
No.
I mean, you could go out there with a ping pong paddle or some kind of a baseball bat and start swinging it around. They don't care. Doesn't matter.
You can't just put salt around your house. Perimeter of salt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, can you imagine that? Something that they don't like. What? You know, they don't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah. Is the Dalai Lama, is that a position or is that a man? Like when he dies, do they elect another one, or is that just him?
Oh, he's the highest monk. There's always a highest monk.
Okay.
And he starts out as a child. You know, he's the monk. He's born into that role. In their mixed up, convoluted way of understanding. And it's all related to the zodiac, obviously, ultimately. You know, there's some kind of connection with, in the center of the zodiac is the sun itself. You know, the sun is sitting in the middle and all the constellations are around the edge. But all these things spin off from that. And the time of the birth of the Dalai Lama is a signal. But the Dalai Lama is actually the Dalai Lama for life. He doesn't resign. And, of course, the Pope is some new system entirely. You know, a lot of people are interested in various, you know, what is your opinion? What is your opinion? Scripture doesn't recognize such a position at all. However, people do, because the Catholic institution or the magisterium has handed down this idea that there's a succession of apostolic authority. Apostolic succession is one of the foundation stones of that institution. You know, that the apostolic position is coming from Peter, you know, coming all the way down from Peter. But the head of the assembly of Yahuwah is actually Yahusha himself. There is no Holy Father other than him. You know.
Is that because Yahusha said to Kepha, I'm going to build my assembly on you, like you're the rock that I'm going to build my... Is that what they've taken out of context there?
They are. They're taking that to mean that this man is the foundation or what he's going to build his assembly on. And it wasn't that. It was the question of his identity. Who do you say that I am? And that is the foundation of what he was talking about. Of course, in context, we can imagine that he was talking about that man, but that would be a tragedy for us to have an assembly all through time based upon Peter. And then a little later he said, "Get behind me, Satan." Well, you know, so we obviously know that he isn't the foundation, nor was he teaching anyone at that time. Yahusha was not saying there was going to be any leader, because they were arguing among themselves after he announced that he wasn't going to be with them. He was going to go away. And then they started disputing among themselves about which one was the greatest. And then he corrected them and said, none of you are going to be in charge. He was going to be in them, and he would still be in charge. That's why he was sending the counselor, so that he would be in his people. That spiritual pledge.
Yeah.
So we're guided into all truth by him, not by some self-appointed man. And one of the comments that I made last week was that dudes don't ordain other dudes.
Yeah.
You know,
That was
And a lot
funny.
of people go, wait a minute, yes, they do. Well, they really don't, because see, in the Levitical system of, the ceremonial practices, I think it's Leviticus chapter 13, it talks about the right ear, the right thumb, and the right big toe, anointed with blood and then oil, and that was done to the priesthood, and that had to be a bull and I think a lamb, or certain things. But also the cleansing of the lepers were also treated the same way. There was the right ear, the right thumb, and the right big toe, and for the person that had to be cleansed. So it's a cleansing operation that's being done. But it's the word in the Hebrew is milah or mili, and it has to do with ordination as we understand it. But that was an institution or a practice that was to awaken the physical aspects of a spiritual thing that was really happening. Because the right ear has to do with listening to the word of Yahuwah. And the right thumb, of course, the activity of obedience. And the right toe, walking in the world with the Torah. See, within us is a precious thing. The Spirit of Yahusha, the living Torah, the living Word, is walking in the earth, around, in the earth, in places of darkness. That's where he goes. He treads in places of darkness into the valleys of the world. And he said in Jeremiah 16, and I think it's related to Jeremiah chapter 3 too, that he was going to go in, he would send fishermen, and he would send hunters, and they would go into the byways, and they would search for the lost in the cracks, under the rocks, and they would know his name, and they would finally come to the knowledge of his name.
Yeah.
So that's an amazing thing too.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
There's been a bit of talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. You mentioned it earlier on with the meteor shower and things.
Yeah.
And earlier on in the week, Chris was mentioning that as far as when the messengers came in to get Lot in, they kind of had to sneak in because it was so dark and depraved, and they had to kind of sneak in. And he was saying to me, well, this is kind of like how it is for us, we don't go broadcast. We kind of got to sneak in and find we've got to find the lost in the darkness, and sometimes you've got to be sneaky and find them. And, don't go waving a billboard around, you might get shot. So, just sneak in there and find people on the highways and byways. And then a couple of nights ago I was talking to Sean, my mate, and he was saying, in regards to yourself, he said, why can't people understand that Lot was where he was meant to be until Yahuwah pulled him out? Just like yourself in your shop. Just like all of us, we're where we're meant to be until Yahuwah moves us.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about Sodom and Gomorrah this week. So,
There's a lot more lovely places that I'd like to be. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I am where I'm supposed to be for now, and I'm working among lost people, talking to them. Like I mentioned, that lady, that I told her the truth, of course. I told her what was real. She thinks it's negative energy, and it's not negative energy. It's not something in the physical realm at all that is giving her trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can see the physical stuff coming at you, usually. Like, look, there's a tornado. Okay, let's move away from that. The negative energy that she was having, that's what they call it. It's spiritual. And they need to realize that. So I told her the truth. And, when we're talking about the love of the commandments, these 10 commandments teach us how to love. And when we share these, we plant seeds. We don't have to give them all 10 at one time. We can just say, well, I can't promote tarot cards or Ouija boards because that's against the first commandment. And I don't do that. And I don't consult with demons, because Deuteronomy 18 prohibits us from having contact with or conversations with demons or spirits. We can call them spirits, but we can call them demons too.
Yeah.
But the fact is, it isn't something we're supposed to do, so we don't do it.
Yeah.
Divination or necromancy, talking to dead people, that's not allowed either. Should not a people consult with Yahuwah? And he only wants us to consult him. He doesn't want us to talk to dead people. You know, he wants to talk us. And the Catholic magisterium has trained people for centuries how to contact dead saints, patron saints, pray to them. Yahusha's mother, you know, then she has supposedly, and we know that it's not really her, but there's apparitions, Marian apparitions, crying statues that people pray to. You know, these are all part of demonic activity.
Yeah. There's a lot of hype, isn't there? I mean, you speak to some Christian people and Catholic people who are so devoted, and they've got these experiences where, like, they felt the fire come on them, and their legs were shaking, and they saw this with their own eyes, and you're standing there going, well, how do I argue with this? It's nonsense, but how do I argue with that? They've had a physical experience, they think, and they may have, but a lot of us used to be tongue talkers, and it's a whole lot of gibberish.
Well, when I talk to a lot of wizards and witches, they explain to me, they get real serious, and they get their voice lowers, and they say, there's real power involved. I do things and things happen. And that's demonic. So they, of course, would like to keep gaining that power. See, the whole idea of our political leaders wanting more power is the same, and money. They see this thing that happens in a human heart when they desire things idolatrously. For example, if someone ever had the opportunity to hold a coin collection in their hand, and Phyllis and I were talking about that just the other day, that there's some spiritual thing that comes over the human heart, and you go, oh, what's that? And it might be a guitar, it might be a car, it might be a girl or a boy, or some idol that you put in your heart. It might be a football on a stand. It might be anything. But you feel it in your heart, and it's pushing away the presence of Yahuwah. He's jealous for your heart. He sits on the throne of your heart. That's what he does. And a lot of people haven't ever had that. But once he sits on the throne of your heart, and he controls your heart and your mind and your thoughts and what you desire, then he is your desire after that. And there's still going to be things competing with that. But,
there was that guy in the camp, wasn't there, who had his treasure hidden under his tent, and he got smitten. Was it Aiken or somebody?
Yes.
Was it him? Yeah, he was full on.
Yeah.
And they had to they gather everybody around, and somebody's hiding stuff.
Yes.
It's just like
that's because Yahuwah was jealous of what was going on in the heart. Yeah. He searches minds and hearts. So a lot of people will get a new car, or they'll have a new home, and they put their heart and their mind all into that, and it just upsets Yahuwah to no end, and it breaks his heart. He's jealous of us and our desires. So if we just talk to him and we say, I love you. I mean, how many people say, I love you? Every day, I try to do that over and over. I just tell Yahusha, I love him. And I'm trying to learn the Hebrew way of saying it. I say things like, Ani, Ahaba, Ata, Yahuwah, or Yahusha. It's the same being, actually. And that's going to be a problem for people, too. It isn't revealed to people who he is. He is Yahuwah. But Ani means I, or myself. And Ahaba means love. And Ata means you, the other person. You know.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful.
So I love you, Ata. Ani, Ahaba, Ata.
Ani ahaba ata.
Yeah, Yahusha.
Wow. You're speaking his language.
I love you, Yahusha. Yeah.
Wow.
But, yeah, and he's jealous, and we just need to remember that. The first 4 commandments show him that we love him when we walk in those commandments. And Yahusha said, if you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples. And you will learn the truth, and the truth will set you free. That's 31:32, chapter 8 of Yahuwah or John.
Yeah.
I was at a restaurant, and I saw a girl that was a waitress there. And she had Roman numerals tattooed on the back of her neck. And we shouldn't do that, because Leviticus 19, I believe, prohibits us from tattooing ourselves or having someone tattoo us. But she had these Roman numerals back there, and I could read it, you know, because I've studied Roman numerals, and it said 832 and 832. And I asked her about it as I was walking behind her, and she said, oh, that's John chapter 8, verse 32. And I said, well, have you read the verse before that? You know, verse 31.
Yeah.
Because those two are taken together.
Yeah.
If you live in my word, that's what abide means, to live in my word, then you will be truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So all she picked up on was the truth will set you free.
Yeah.
You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So, you know, I imagine she looked it up because she tattooed it on herself.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's this customer going, look at the verse just before that when you get a chance.
Wow.
And it was lovely that I could recall that verse. You know, it was put on my heart, of course. He prepared me for that moment. And I don't know where she is now, but she might still be there. She was a waitress. I don't go out to eat very much, but I had some band members that from our band when we were back in the Leaves of Autumn. The pictures on my Facebook page will show those members. Anyway, Rick Uselis and Mark Leopard, Paula Bass, and Bob Nord, and myself. We're all sitting at the table, and just for the first time, we'd gotten together in 40 years, maybe.
Yeah. That would have been fun.
Maybe something like close to 40. So it had been a long time, and we were just sitting there, and that's where that memory came from. It was a very strong memory for me.
Wow.
But even walking around in the world, there's the scriptures, you know, somebody's neck.
Yeah. There's always a seed to be sown, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
So I only heard about the Pope thing from a client the other day, and I still don't know why. Why is he resigning? Is there a general consensus on that, or?
No, there's not really, except that he's old and he's tired. He has to be carried everywhere.
I thought you had to die.
You do, you know, normally. But if you get really ill and you're unable to perform your duties, then someone else has to come and take your place. It's kind of reminding us of Psalm 109. You know, there was another shall take his office. But of course, that's not a prophecy about the Pope. That's a prophecy about Yehuda, or Judas, as they call him. Another will take his office. You know, when they voted on a new replacement for Yehuda, they, I think, voted on a guy they call Matthias. But then, or his real name was Metiyahu. But he's never mentioned again after that. It was between a fellow named Justin and Matthias, I believe. But
so it's going to be all around who comes in next.
Not for us.
No, not at all.
Not at all. It won't matter. And of course, they're saying this is the last one, and I wonder if it's going to be a person from this place or that place, what ethnicity he'll be. South American ethnicity would be an interesting thing because there's a focus of a lot of Roman Catholics there in the world. And there's a growing consensus that it might be somebody from Africa because that religion is growing in that country.
Wow. Did you say there's something happening, nuclear testing or something like that underground?
Yes, in Korea. Yes, they had some kind of nuclear test underground, caused a 5-point-something earthquake. And so North Korea is still flexing its muscles. And, you know, the greatest enemy to them apparently is the United States. And that doesn't make anybody feel comfortable, especially when you're in the United States. But yeah, North Korea has always been a rogue nation, you know, for a lot of years. But I understand South Korea has built roads and railroads up to the border, waiting for the time when they can reunite. You know, I don't know that that'll ever happen, but it would be lovely if it was. If they just learned how to love one another, you know, that's the key. But they're not into love, you know. They like to, you know, all their money and everything is used for the military and the government, and the people are languishing in that country. A lot of them are leaving and going to China, I guess, nearby. Refugees.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically, they're starving.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it's full on, isn't it?
Yeah, what's ahead of us is going to be ferocious.
Yeah.
With these meteorite showers, it's really something to see. We don't know what the next thing is going to be, but there's all kinds of signs of the end coming. One of my favorite lecturers or professors of this eschatological subject, you know, that's end times matters, is Tom Horn. Tom Horn is on the YouTube. Everybody that gets on YouTube can find Tom Horn, and he's really amazing. I just wish he'd use more scripture. You know, yeah. He's actually a well-educated man. I think a practicing preacher. You know, Christian preacher.
Yeah. Wow.
But he doesn't use the correct names, but you know, that's keeping him in the spotlight, because as soon as you start departing from the accepted name, then you're kind of like, oh, they've gone off the edge, you know. Yeah. But the real name of the Messiah is Yahusha, and it's also Yahushua and Yeshua. It's all three. The spellings are in Scripture, so don't be upset, you know. That's something I was somewhat, well, every time I hear of someone that gets really upset about how you spell things, that's kind of a pain. And it's a sad thing when people shun you because of the way you happen to use the spelling of the name in English. Yeah. But we know that his name is Yod He Shin. Well, Yod He Ua Shin Ayin. That's his name, 5 letters. And there's 2 places that's used 216 times of it. And then we know that it's spelled with 6 letters in 2 places, and in 1 place it's spelled with 4 letters. But the name appeared for the first time in the book of Numbers when Moshe added 1 letter to the man's name. His name was Husha, which means deliverance. And then he put a yod at the beginning of it. You know, of course, he wasn't using the little apostrophe, but when they wrote those things down, it was more like that little, like this. Yeah, there it is. He added this letter right here, this first letter, because it's read from the right to the left. This is Yahuwah. But Husha was spelled with 4 letters. It was these were the first 2 letters, Hu, And then there was a sheen, right, after that, and then there was an IE at the end. So 4 letters, Husha, and then Yah started. I wish I had Yahusha's name in this, on these little things. But
Yeah, there was an article you did not long ago. Somebody was asking you why would Joshua have the same name as the Messiah if it's the name above all names? Why would they have the same name?
why would they have the same name? Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, it doesn't
but
say
they
it's
did.
the only name. He isn't the only man that was named that. We have the man that succeeded Moshe, and Moshe basically was guided to change his name to Yahusha. Yah is our deliverance. And the Messiah's name was prophesied in the book of Zechariah, chapter 3. Zechariah, chapter 3. And it says that this man, they translate it, they don't translate it, they transliterated it in error, Joshua, the high priest. But it's a prophecy about the name of the Messiah. So,
do you think the fact that Joshua took the people into the promised land, is that the significance there? Why he changed his name to Yahusha?
I think so too.
Yeah?
I see the connection because the first Joshua, as they call him, his real name is Yahusha, took the children of Israel after 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. See, he'd already been in the land, 40 years previously with those 12 spies. And he and Caleb had a good report, like, they don't have a chance. The other 10 spies were saying, we were like grasshoppers in our own sight before them. And the cities are filled with these giants. And Caleb and Yahusha were saying, they don't have a chance. Look who's with us. Because they knew Yahuwah was with them. Well, anyway, 40 years later, they come into the land. And the man, Yahusha, is bringing the children of Israel into the land. Well, that's the same thing that's prophesied in many places in, like, for example, Jeremiah, chapter 16. And it's also hinted at in chapter 3 of Jeremiah. Chapter 16 is amazing. Let me read a little of that, if you don't mind. This is wonderful. Let me find him. Chapter 16 of Yirmiyahu. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, do not take a wife, nor have sons or daughters in this place. For thus said Yahuwah concerning the sons and daughters who were born in this place, and concerning their mothers who bear them, and their fathers who bring them forth in this land, they shall die of deaths from diseases. Well, let's move forward a little bit more to later in the chapter here, where it says, anyway, they're forsaking Yahuwah is what they're doing, and not guarding his Torah. And they've done evil, and he's gonna throw them out of this land. It says in verse 13, chapter 16, verse 13, he's gonna throw them out of this land. And then beginning at verse 14, this is it. Therefore, see, the days are coming, declares Yahuwah, when it is no longer said, Yahuwah lives, who brought up the children of Israel from the land of Mitzrayim. That's Egypt. But Yahuwah lives, who brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north and from all the lands where he had driven them. For I will bring them back into their land I gave to their fathers. I will bring them back, it says. See, I am sending many fishermen, declares Yahuwah, and they shall fish them. And after that I shall send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and every hill, and I see that as nations, and out of the holes of the rocks. For my eyes are on all their ways, and they have not been hidden from my face, nor has their crookedness been hidden from my eyes. And first I shall repay double for their crookedness and their sin, because they have defiled my land with the dead bodies of their disgusting matters, and have filled my inheritance with their abominations. O Yahuwah, my strength and my stronghold, and my refuge, in the day of distress, that's the tribulation, the Gentiles, that's the nations, the Goyim, shall come to you from the ends of the earth and say, our fathers have inherited only falsehood, futility, and there is no value in them. Would a man make mighty ones for himself, which are not mighty ones? Therefore, see, I am causing them to know. This time I cause them to know my hand and my might, and they shall know my name is Yahuwah. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. That popped into Phyllis's head this morning. She was in bed. She woke up and she said, Lew, where's that at? Where's that found? He was just reminding me of the regathering, And that's what Joshua did, or Yahusha, took the children into the land. And that's going to be done by another Yahusha also. He's going to gather us from the four winds, and then he's going to come into the land. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to be off the earth. No, you're not. He's coming here. This is Yahusha's home. And specifically, his home is our hearts. He's going to indwell his temple. And a lot of people think about the physical, but it's a spiritual house. We're his house. We're his home.
So it's not a good idea to start boarding a plane and heading for Jerusalem now.
Well, no, not really. There are prophecies that Yehuda will be in the land. Yehuda will be in the land, yes. But Yirmiyahu chapter 3 is really good too. He's talking about the unfaithful wife that Israel and Yehuda is. But let's see where it says. Let's see. Talks about a green tree there too. In verse 7, Yirmiyahu 3:7, it says, and after she had done all these, I said, return to me. But she did not return. And her treacherous sister Yehuda saw it. That's the northern 10 tribes. And I saw that for all the causes for which backsliding Israel had committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a certificate of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Yehuda did not fear, but went and committed whoring too. See, the northern tribes were taken away. And then Yehuda witnessed it, but they ignored it. They said, well, we'll go ahead and keep doing what we're doing too. And it came to be through her frivolous whoring that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and wood. That's idolatrous things. And yet for all this, her treacherous sister Yehuda has not returned to me with all her heart, but falsely, declares Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said to me, backsliding Israel has shown herself more righteous than treacherous Yehuda. And then it says, go and proclaim these words toward the north and say, return, O backsliding Israel, declares Yahuwah. I shall not look on you in displeasure, for I am kind, declares Yahuwah. And I do not bear a grudge forever. Only acknowledge your crookedness, and because you have transgressed against Yahuwah your Elohim, and have scattered your ways to strangers under every green tree, and you have not obeyed my voice, declares Yahuwah. Return, O backsliding children, declares Yahuwah, for I shall rule over you and shall take you, one from a city and two from a clan, and shall bring you to Sion. And I shall give you shepherds according to my heart, and they shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. And it shall be when you have increased and shall bear fruit in the land in those days, declares Yahuwah, that they no longer say, the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah. Neither would it come to heart, nor would they remember it, nor would they visit it, nor would it be made again. For at that time YERUSHALAYIM shall be called the throne of Yahuwah. See, the ark was called the throne of Yahuwah. It was also called the name. And all the nations shall be gathered to it, to the name of Yahuwah, to YERUSHALAYIM, and no longer walk after the stubbornness of their evil heart. In those days, the house of Yehuda shall go to the house of Israel, and they shall come together out of the land of the north to the land that I have given them as an inheritance to your fathers. But I said, how would I put you among the children and give you a pleasant land, a splendid inheritance of the hosts of nations? And I said, call me my father, and do not turn away from me. Anyway, it's talking about them betraying him as a wife. Because they would not obey his voice. And what would his voice be? Well, it's these commandments. He keeps coming back to them.
Yeah.
And this is what the circus does not want you to obey. Why would that be? Yeah, we can't commit adultery. We can't steal. We can't murder. Well, what about breaking the Sabbath and working on the Sabbath, ignoring the sign of the everlasting covenant? Or casting his name to ruin, bowing to images, building statues and putting them up.
Hmm.
It's just amazing. And it says right at the beginning, I am Yahuwah, your Elohim. And they won't even, in the Catholic Magisterium, they've prohibited using his name. And he says here, you do not cast the name of Yahuwah, your Elohim, to ruin. Well, what do they teach us? Yeah.
That scripture you just read out there, where he said he divorced Yahuwah, divorced Israel.
Yes.
Is that one of the main texts that fueled replacement theology?
Well, some deny that it was a divorce, and then others, yes, they say, oh, well, the Israel was cast off, and now there's a new Israel, and that is his CHURCH, his circus. The Christian organizations, the denominations that make up Christianity assume that they are Israel. When one of the times I had a conversation with my father, he said, I asked him, who is Israel to you? He said, it's the Roman Catholic Magisterium, or the circus. That's Israel. Israel, the other people that were Israel, were cast aside, and they are no longer. But that's not true, because, well...
So if Yahuwah did divorce them, when did he remarry? When did he remarry them? Was that at the stake? Was that or?
Yes, the husband has to die in order for the covenant to end. The marriage covenant is what we're really talking about. It was at Sinai, and at the time that Yahusha died, the husband died that had made the covenant, and then he can remarry the same bride. Of course, little did we know at that time that the scattered tribes and the lost tribes are all Israel also. They're the seed of Abraham, and the covenant is with them also. So a person that is raised a Gentile is unknowingly living as a Gentile, as a dog, as the prodigal son did in the land that he left his father's household, gone into another foreign land, and was working for another man, and doing idolatrous things and starving because he had no life in him, worshiping in pagan ways. And then he came to his senses, realized who he is, and that's the generations that have been scattered into the nations and mixed in. Abraham has literally become the nations. And now Yahusha is sending forth his spirit in people to realize, come back, who are you? Who are you? When these words come upon you in the end of days, then you will return and obey my voice. I've got this on the back of one of our little business cards. It says, this is addressed to the tribes of Israel. If you read Deuteronomy chapters 4 and 5, and of course 6, because that's important. In Deuteronomy 30, the first 20 verses of Deuteronomy 30. Anyway, one of the phrases is, in your distress, that's the tribulation, when all these words shall come upon you in the latter days, then you shall return to Yahuwah your Elohim and shall obey his voice. And Deuteronomy 4 verse 30, that's what that is. He's going to restore us to his covenant first, where we have been scattered. He's not going to return us to the land and then restore us to the covenant. We're going to hear these words wherever we've been scattered, down in Australia and out in the islands of the sea and, in the nations. And then we would return to his covenant where we are, and then he will regather us when he comes. That's really amazing.
How wonderful.
Yes, it is.
It jumped out at me a few minutes ago when you were talking in that scripture about the Ark of the Covenant, and you said it was called something else, and it was also called his name. And that I just went, what? You know, that it's like, because everyone knows the Ark of the Covenant is his presence, where his presence was, and now it's his name. And so that's amazing. Like, if you can't really have his presence without his name, or his name without his presence, can you? It kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, if you're the ark was a box that was a container of the most precious thing, the marriage vows, the marriage covenants, the 10 Commandments. And those 10 Commandments were called the Asareth Hadabarim, which means 10 words. That's what Asareth means, 10. And Dabarim means words. The 10 words are the marriage vows. One was a copy that belonged to the husband, and the other was a copy that belonged to the wife, Israel. And all of the tribes, not just the tribe of Yehuda, it isn't just the Jews, they're the royal tribe. But all the tribes, and a mixed multitude also that came out of Mitzrayim, all came into became one nation, one bride, under the authority of the headship of Yahuwah. And that deliverance was mighty, and he married her at Sinai. And that marriage was the divorce of the northern 10 tribes was resulting in their scattering. But he said, when you come to your senses in the lands where you will return to, you will obey my voice. When these words come back upon you, these words he's talking about are those 10 words. I keep lifting it up and showing them to you. There they are. These are abbreviated, of course, from the 10 words, but they're written in Exodus chapter 20 and Deuteronomy chapter 5. Dabarim 5. And then he goes on in chapter 6 and talks about how they're to be put on the doorposts and the gates of your homes and taught to your children when you lie down, when you rise up, or when you sit in your home and go in and out, walk along the way. So there's no doubt what words he's talking about. These words that are coming upon you, where he has scattered you, and you will obey his voice. Those are the words of the covenant. And if you have an ear to hear, Yahusha kept saying that, he who has ears, let him hear. And we're making it as simple as we can. Because Yahusha in us, his Nazarene, is appealing and begging, hunting, fishing, going out into the rocks and crevices and the highways, and inviting people into the marriage feast. Now, the marriage feast is the high calling. It's the first resurrection at his return. And then 1,000 years later, after we've been teaching the nations in our new bodies, the flesh will be living and dying during those times, and I think their lifespans will be extended somewhat. But at the end of that 1,000 years, a second resurrection will occur at the great white throne judgment, when all the dead are raised, which is not the high calling by any means, but their names will be checked to see if they're in the scroll of life. Now, if they're found to be in the scroll of life, they will be fine. They will be representing people that didn't quite make the higher calling, but they're okay. A lot of Christian teachers teach that they're all going to be thrown into the lake of fire. That's not true. It doesn't say that. But there will be most people, I'm sure, as we see. That there will be very few that will be. But anyway, before the first resurrection, people will have died that didn't make the higher calling. They will be resurrected in the second resurrection. And then those that live during the 1,000 years with our training, that's the Nazarene that have been changed or resurrected, will be training for 1,000 years. And 1,000 years, 1 billion people could easily be reproduced, especially with a restored and healed earth. Maybe billions, who knows? But there's some 7 billion people alive now, and that just happened in the last, I think it was about 1850 that the earth reached, as far as we know, the first billion. And that was just in the last, from 1850 to now, that we have 7 billion. But a lot of people will be living, will die during that 1,000 years. So they will also be resurrected at the great white throne judgment. So how could you say that all of those would be thrown into the lake of fire? See, you can't. It's just not right. So there are technical problems with some of the teachings, but we're not condemning the teachers. They just have a strange Christianized way of looking at things. They have what did Phyllis call it? She said it was a Christian sort of a hang-up, a Christian hang-up.
Yeah.
Because they've poured things into their heart that are just not true. They've got things that are true in there, but things that are not true too. So they're all mixed in there with all these strongholds.
A hybrid.
Yeah, it's some kind of hybrid. But,
yeah.
Pure, without guile, is what we're trying to shoot for. But
yeah. So when the earth gets restored, I haven't really thought about that. Do you think it'll be going back to how it was in the beginning in the garden? Like, no buildings, no technology, no nothing? Just restored. That's a stupid question. How would you know that?
how would I know? Yeah, who would know that? Yeah, but I would like to think that. Yes, we would love to see. It says, "Eye has not seen nor ear heard the things which He has prepared for those that love Him," and we can't imagine what it's going to be. We're going to have musical instruments. We're going to be singing, and we'll have lots of worship, and obedience is what worship is. People walking in there. People probably won't need locks on their doors. You know,
they won't have doors.
Won't have doors.
Who knows?
And gold and silver won't really matter. There'll be this, the things that we'll have around us will be common compared to what we will have in us. The presence of Yahusha. See, we've got a small taste of His Spirit living in us. Those that have Him, and when He comes into us in a full way, He will have come home. He's building a new vessel for those that He's chosen. And when He puts us in those vessels, He will not build a vessel for those who will not submit to His covenant. I mean, can you imagine somebody out there that's living for themselves, that has no direction, and does whatever they want, and has no rulership of the Creator over them at all? They just do whatever feels right to them. Their heart is wicked. They say, "Oh, I'm a good person." Well, they don't have a stop button. They don't have a day that they recognize that is the eternal sign of the eternal covenant, the Sabbath. They don't recognize His name. They call Him whatever they want. Whatever, and just everything is wrong. And they say, "Well, I haven't murdered anybody." Well, that's not the problem. It's they won't submit to obedience. Can you imagine Yahuwah giving some person like that an immortal body, and then have them running around with that immortal body doing whatever they want?
No.
You have to have the love of the covenant written on your heart by Yahusha. You have to submit to that. And that's called our circumcision. It's a cutting of your heart. Your heart is cut. And you feel it. Now, your heart isn't your physical heart. Your heart is the spiritual vessel that you are. It's the inner self that is really the real you, that's operating the machine that you think is your body, that's actually mortal, that can be killed at any second, any moment in time. But that thing that's in that vessel, that's operating it, if He's sitting on the throne of that vessel, that inner heart, what people call the mind or the soul, these are not indistinct things. It's hard to really put a word to it, but that's the thing, that he's either controlling you or you're controlling him.
Yeah. So in some texts it says that the New Yerushalayim, the cube, comes down. There's no need for sun or moon because He's the light. And then in other texts it says we are stones fitted together. Like we are going to be. It says that we're the bride, and it also says we're the New Yerushalayim, doesn't it? So do you imagine yourself flying in and out of this kingdom cube, or do you?
Yes.
So you don't imagine us, being part of it. Like it says, we're building blocks in it, but it also says that. Do you know what I'm saying? Are we part of it, or are we coming and going?
We are. We're coming and going, but I want to. You just reminded me of something. There's a text where it talks about who are these flying beings. Let's see if I can find this. It's really an interesting thing. Who are these flying like a cloud? Yeah, it's right here. Let me move your head out of the way. Your head's so big, you're in the way.
You ain't got to tell me.
But I can just move your head anywhere I want. See?
Yeah.
Now, it says this. Who are these flying like a cloud and like doves to their windows? Because the coastlands wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring your sons from afar, their silver and their gold with them, to the name of Yahuwah, your Elohim, and the name of Yahuwah will be the new Yerushalayim. And to the set apart one of Yisrael, because he has adorned you. It's amazing. That's actually the Yeshayahu, or Isaiah, chapter 60, starting at verse 8. That's 60, verse 8. And then he continues in verse 11. And your gates will be open continually. They are not shut day or night, to bring to you the wealth of the Gentiles and their sovereigns in procession. For the nation and the reign that do not serve you shall perish, and those Gentiles shall be utterly laid waste. Well, he's talking about the servants of the nations will be serving us. But no longer is the sun your light by day, nor does the moon give light to you for brightness. But Yahuwah shall be to you an everlasting light, and your Elohim, your comeliness. Anyway, that was verse 19. But it's talking about that future thing.
Yeah. That's just going to be a huge thing to see. For those who don't know, it's going to be like half the size of the United States, isn't it? If you measure it out. And just as high.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's going to be some kind of cube. Now, some people say it's going to be a pyramid. It'll be square at the bottom, and then it'll just come up on the sides and to a point. That sounds kind of Masonic to me. And Adam Weishaupt, who designed the all-seeing eye and the pyramid and all that. Well, the pyramids were around, according to a lot of scholars. They understand that the three great pyramids, or the Great Pyramid and the two lesser pyramids, were there before the flood, because there's sea creatures living at a certain level where the sea was at for a while, all at the same level. So the flood was going on. So those things must have been built by enormous creatures and technology. I doubt they were built by aliens, but after Adam and Noah, and Methuselah and Noah.
What's your definition of an alien, Nepho? They'd have to, wouldn't they? They have massive, right? How would mankind do that?
Well, yeah. As far as a large person, that they would have to use tools and technology. I mean, look at the technology that we've had just developed since Columbus. I mean, he was driving around in a boat about the size of a school bus, made of wood. Yeah, it was made of wood, and there were like 3 little ships coming from Europe, trying to find out if there was anything in the. They were trying to find India is what they were trying to do. But and then it was the first time that the Europeans discovered that there was, a continent there. So
I thought those ships were huge. You reckon it's the size of a school bus?
That's the size of a school bus.
Wow. That'd be a freak out.
Yeah. Oh, but ancient ships were big. They'd have as many as 500 or 600 people on board.
Yeah.
They were enormous. Israel ships, the ones that Solomon sent forth to get things like bronze, copper, gold, silver. He was sending ships out into the he called the rivers of the oceans, the currents, and they would go and sail, and they wouldn't come back for 3 years. But they knew how to navigate the globe. And they were mining here in North America, South America.
So those people would not have believed that the Earth was flat.
Absolutely not, no. They weren't flat earthers at all.
Oh, that's an expression, is it?
Yeah, flat earthers. Oh, they're on the internet too. If you look up flat earthers on YouTube or flat earthers on Google or one of the search engines, there's people that really do believe the Earth is flat. I mean, they look out and they go, yep, it's flat. These people that think it's a sphere are wrong. Anyway.
The satellites are just deceiving us.
And we've never been to the moon.
Oh,
of course.
Well, that was a conspiracy, of course.
Yeah, that's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Did you see the flag? The flag was moving. Yeah. Well, there's a solar wind out there too. You know, there is a thin atmosphere on the moon, but it's so thin that it's almost not there at all. But you can jump around. You're like 1/6 your weight here. Which, if you stay there real long, they're talking about colonies on the moon. If you stay there, you're probably going to have real serious problems because your bones and your muscles will not be able to stand it if you return. You know, after, say, a year or two in an environment without that much gravity, you would do serious injury to yourself unless you're exercising just ferociously, you know.
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll ever happen, do you?
Well, no, I don't. Because we're not built for, our bodies were not designed to inhale smoke. Our bodies were not designed to live in an environment with no air or water or, you know, a friendly temperature. You know, the body is just not designed for them. You know, you can create an artificial environment for a short period of time to protect you from this. But then there's the cosmic radiation that will penetrate deeply. In fact, there's probably things that will go all the way through the whole planet. You know, a certain kind of radiation. But shielding is just impossible.
You mean sun radiation?
Or corpuscular radiation that is actually coming from all directions, not just the sun. Okay. It's coming from everywhere. And it will cause cancer, you know, and disrupt your DNA. That's why we're mortal, you know. We are going to die in these bodies. We have, you know, a kill switch, if you want to call it. Everybody has a kill switch. Even the people that think that they're in charge of this world. The rich, the people that are in power, they don't know that they can go at any moment. And some of them are going to have horrible lingering deaths, you know, like, you know, we just have to face our mortality. But going to the moon, just going there is okay. I don't see anything evil with that necessarily, but I might be wrong. But as far as a commandment, Yahuwah didn't say that we couldn't, but they did build the Tower of Babel, and if they build a colony on the moon, then that's the Tower of Babel on steroids. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
They talk about putting things up in orbit that will be enormous reflectors, unfold them, and then they'll be able to light up the dark part of the Earth, you know, so there will be no darkness. They've talked about that technology.
Have the sun shining 24/7.
But then they've talked about how that's going to mess up the turtles and birds and the animals that are, you know, they need the night. You know, the nocturnal animals would have serious trouble.
So would we. When do you sleep?
Yeah. See, we're supposed to have this night, day.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, that's since creation, isn't it?
And they want to put things up there that are huge, too, that would be advertisements for, like, soft drinks, Coca-Cola.
Oh, that'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? That's all just what you need in the clouds.
The new iPod 6. Here it comes. It's up there in the sky, advertising.
Yeah. That'd
There
have to
is
be
so much
huge.
up. There is just a cloud of stuff up there. There are so many satellites that are up there that it's almost dangerous to even travel up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there, one or another of them is falling down on the earth all the time. And people are, going, look out, here comes one.
Yeah. So do you still subscribe to half these science mags and journals you used to be into, just for curiosity, or you just
No.
you just know what's going on from all your study previously?
Yeah, it's just that. In fact, I'm pretty much really foggy on all that stuff now. I used to study the solar wind and how it's partially radiation and corpuscular. See, there's physical objects too, electrons that are being ejected constantly from this explosion at the center of our solar system. And there's actually a wind and the coronal things that happen with ejecta, that, things that are flying out of the sun and disrupting electronic grids. We have, it gets trapped and carried around the earth for the most part by our magnetic. We have a magnetic pole at the north of the South Pole, and that's why they have the lights, that these fluorescent lights appear in northern and I guess southern areas, and it's the borealis, as they call it.
Yeah.
And that's caused by these electrons that are ejected from the sun. These huge flares.
It's amazing how a lot of people, scientists or not, even clients you talk to, they agree that they believe the Earth will be destroyed by a solar flare.
Yeah.
Which you've already declared Yahuwah will probably use in order to get the moon to go red.
Yeah, it could be that it will somehow, the ignition at the center of the sun might fail and it would go off, and then the sun would naturally collapse under its own weight and grow dark. Although it would not be dark, it would just redden and get smaller. And then it would probably reignite. And if it reignites, it's going to be a nova, possibly a supernova. And of course, that would fry everything on the earth like to a cinder. And of course, he does say he will burn the earth. And I see that partially as a possibility with nuclear weapons, but I see a more thorough burning coming from, the sun.
Yeah.
As a possibility. So they're both possible. And then there's the other possibility, and that's the fifth planet, which they call Jupiter, named after a Roman deity. It's just a little bit under the critical amount of mass to create a fission activity in the center. And if it ever did ignite just spontaneously because of a condition that existed, then that would cause that to explode and send a lot of ejecta towards us, towards the inner solar system. And then the asteroid belt would also get into the act and throw material to the inner part of the solar system. But there's a lot of things that can happen, and they're supposed to happen in the end times. We don't know which one of them it'll be, or all of them maybe, But it's going to be really ferocious and dangerous to be in a mortal body. And that's why I think he's going to change us in the twinkling of an eye, because these things are going to happen, and then we're changed, and then the stuff doesn't harm us. But 1,000 will fall on our side, and 10,000 in our right hand, it says. And Psalm 91 is going to be really critical at that point, because he says, what he says at the end of that psalm, he says that it will not come near your tent, the plague, and he says that he protects us because he has known my name. He keeps saying that. He keeps referring to his name. Knowing his name and most people don't know his name, but we're proclaiming his name, you know, because we're going out fishing and hunting.
Yeah, that's amazing, brother.
I was listening to a preacher on the YouTube that was, somebody sent this thing to me and he said, "You're going to be upset with this," and he's talking about Sunday. What was that? He said something about, well, Sunday's the right day because they're doing it in all these places all over the world. It's got to be the right day, you know, based on that. You know,
They're doing a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah. But the Sabbath was moved from one day to the next by a Roman emperor. You know, Constantine in the year
321, was it?
321? Yeah, 321. But he didn't know it was the year 321 because that year hadn't been arranged yet. He was, you know, basically the Edict of Constantine. Anybody that wants to look up Edict of Constantine will easily see that this was enforced under penalty of death, that all the shops and all the empire had to be closed on the venerable day of the sun. And they still do that. They do it here in this country. Do they do that in Australia?
Yeah, most shops are open in the big cities now, and most towns, they all the malls, shopping malls, open on Sunday. But if small towns like this one, there's nothing open on Sunday. So it's still there, even if technology and culture has evolved, it's still there. Like, people don't do anything on Sunday. A lot of the shops close. Even if big malls are, yeah.
What about the day before that, on the seventh day?
Oh, everything's open. On the Sabbath, everything's open.
And they're at a frenzy, right? There's a shopping frenzy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing what goes on the Sabbath. It's like, can't you do it tomorrow? No, you got to do it, you know, Sabbath.
Yeah. We can't do it. That's Sunday.
Yeah. That's it.
Sunday is not the name of the day. It's the first day of the week. It's the day you go back to work. It's the first day of the week. Let's go back to work. That's why Yahusha was coming out of the tomb at the end of the Sabbath, because the Sabbath was over, the resting's done. Let's get back to work.
Yeah.
It's not the day of rest,
yeah,
as they promoted.
Yeah.
But
so Constantine didn't even know what year it was. How's that work? Well, they didn't measure time back then?
Well, they usually measured time according to the year of the king, and they did that in various ways and places. But in the year 525, as the man Dionysius Exiguus, it was not Dionysius. Yeah, it was. It was him. He was the Scythian monk, a monk from Scythia, who went to Rome, and in the year, he saw these horrible things happening with these wreaths and trees and people just going nuts and getting drunk. And it was the birthday of the sun deity. It was December 25th when he saw these things happening in the month of December. They were celebrating the rebirth of the sun, the Nautilus Sol Invictus, I guess it would be. And the people were just doing horrible things, and so he knew this was wrong, and his conscience was seared. So he thought they needed to change the reason for it, but not the activity itself. So he just said, we're going to change that. And so he promoted the idea that this is really the birthday of the Messiah instead. And
so it was him, it wasn't Constantine.
Right. And in seeking an accurate, as well as he could figure out, an accurate time of birth for the Messiah, he assigned that time of the month of December as the time of his birth, and then he estimated how many years it had been since his birth, and he had estimated 525 years. He was about 5 years off, because Messiah was born between 4 and 6 BCE. He was really born 4 to 6 BCE, but so if you just average it, it's 5 BC, let's say. But he was off by as much as 5 years, maybe 6. But then all of this came about over the next few decades and even centuries, and people began to adopt it as the idea of Messiah's birth on December 25th. So it started in the year 525. So there was no one walking around anywhere on the planet thinking it was the year 524. See, he actually invented the terms before Christ, BC, and AD, the year of our Lord. Anno, it means year of our Lord. Anno Domini, AD, or after the birth.
Wow.
So it's exiguous.
Wow, and that was after. So that was 525. So that was after Constantine.
Yes.
Yeah. So Constantine's main thrust was to build and organize, build a new religion and change the Sabbath day. That was his main gig, was it?
Yes, he was a compromising person who was just seeking peace, and the operation that had been done before him, he had seen a lot of persecution of other religions, and ways of worship, because they were sun worshippers in Rome mostly. And when the message of the Messiah was trying to coexist with it, then he knew that there needed to be a compromise. So he was compromising, and basically paganism infected the Christian or the Nazarene. Most of the Nazarene were hiding in the hills, I'm sure, but in other remote places. But what we understand as Christianity was this new idea of adopting everything and embracing everything universally. So you have all these pagan things all meshed in and adopted, like the Day of the Sun and Easter, which was a festival they also operated. It was the fertility festival, the impregnation of the Mother Earth and the rays of the sun and all that stuff. The sun was coming back and the vegetation was starting to come up, and so fertility was associated with the earth being a mother, and it was all nonsense. But they associated it with Messiah, and the egg and the rabbit, symbols of fertility, were adopted into and mixed with the Messiah. So everything was interpreted for the masses, and the old real reason was forgotten. That's why it's called the occult, because the real meaning is hidden. It's a hidden thing. The arcane, hidden, ancient knowledge is overlooked, and it's crusted over with a new meaning.
Yeah, and all the witches and Wiccans and all the Druids and all that, they all know this stuff. It's common knowledge, isn't it?
They do. Yeah, they actually know this.
They think the Christians are hilarious.
Yes, and I've talked to them, and I continue to talk to them, but and that's why they say, well, they associate what I'm saying with Christianity, and that's what is a stumbling block for them. It's a stronghold for them because they think that I'm talking about Christianity, and I'm not, because this was something that was done to further pollute the true message.
Yes.
People think that Messiah kept the commandments for us, and the commandments are irrelevant now. But in fact, he comes to write them on our hearts, a love for the commandments upon our hearts. And we don't know what sin is without them. So we can't say, I repent of my sins, and then go out and just do things mindlessly, not ever actually learning what the covenant is. Because the covenant is the relationship, and we can't know what a sin is until we see them, and say, oh, well, I've done this. That's terrible. And then I've got to stop doing that, or not doing it. I've got to recognize this commandment and start living in his word and knowing the truth. See, the truth is his words. And that's what the power is. When people talk, when preachers get up and speak against obedience, they call it legalism and various other things, and they don't have discernment, for one thing, and they're promoting an agenda that is anti-law. They're against the law. They're anti-messiahs is what they are. There's many anti-messiahs.
And the sad thing is that the sheep, who often are innocent, are just afraid that they will offend Yahusha by trying to obey, because if we're trying to obey, that means we're trying to do something in your face when you died for us. You know, like that's their mindset, which you can kind of understand. Like, they're like, well, you know, it's the whole law and grace thing, you know. But it's so skewed. Like, it's not throwing it in his face. It's doing what he asked us to do. You know?
Yep. And we have the book of Hebrews also talks about, well, you know, I have conversations with people that say they feel so defiled and like they're not worthy of anything to do with Messiah, but because of the way they are, and they're they have the idea that they have to feel righteous. It isn't a feeling thing; it's a transaction that took place. The transaction has taken place, and we have to have faith in the transaction and faith in the one that we put our faith in, not ourselves. It isn't in our righteous acts that we put our faith in. And that's what we tend to do. We think, well, we're not measuring up, we're not doing it. But you see, what it is Yahusha's sacrifice of himself, once and for all, is sprinkling our hearts with his blood. That's the thing that changes us. It's the Passover. It's what happened at the first Passover. The household, the doorpost and the lintel represents our inner being. And his blood is upon those. And that's his wounds, and we trust in his suffering and his death and his resurrection. And that trust in him is where we put our faith. Hebrews 10 explains that these things are all, you know, about blood and the cleansing activity of blood. Without the sacrifice of blood, there is no forgiveness. There's no covering.
Yeah.
You know, so his blood is what we put our trust in, that sprinkles our hearts.
Yeah.
And then we've received a love for the commandments also, and he enables that because he writes a love for his commandments upon our hearts, and we pant with desire to obey him because we love him. It's because of our love for him that we obey him. It isn't for our works of obedience that saves us.
Yeah.
It's because of our relationship with him that we're delivered. He isn't going to throw somebody in the lake of fire that he has a relationship with. It's the ones he doesn't have a relationship with that denied him, that say, no, I don't want to have anything to do with obeying you. I will not let you be king over me. Well, we are accepting him as our king, as our ruler, our sovereign. We already have. And we do this by the words of our mouth. We are announcing it. The world can see the difference between the one that serves him and the one that does not serve him easily, because, hey, there's somebody that's keeping the commandments and talking about the commandments. He says, Yahusha, he said somewhere that the one that loves me obeys me, you know. And he kept saying that over and over. And he said that the one who annuls the least of these commandments will be the least in the reign. And of course, the least in the reign, you know, we don't want to think about being the least in the reign. But the one who keeps them and teaches them will be the greatest in the reign of the heavens. But anyway, these preachers that he did not send are out there ordaining each other, dressing up, going, yes, let me put on this hat. And they're going out and putting on all these weird pagan costumes that the pagan priests wore. And they're ordaining one another. I'm ordaining you as a new one. And it's nonsense, because Yahusha did not send them. You know, there's a scripture in Yirmiyahu 23. And let me look that up. I think it's right in this area. Yirmiyahu, I'm in Yirmiyahu now. No, I'm not. I'm in Yeshayahu. Yirmiyahu 23. He says, oh, this is definitely coming out of Yahusha too, but in Yirmiyahu, or Jeremiah 23, woe to the shepherds destroying and scattering the sheep of my pasture. Therefore, thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael, I against the shepherds who feed my people, that means teach my people. He said, Peter, feed my sheep. Well, he means teach them. You have scattered my flock and driven them away and have not tended them. See, I am punishing you for the evil of your deeds. And then he talks about gathering the remnant of his flock, and he will raise up shepherds over them, and they shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be discouraged, nor shall they be lacking, declares Yahuwah. Yeah. It's just amazing, because but he talks later, I think it's in verse, let's see, 21. Let's look at verse 21 of chapter 23. Yeah. There's, he's talking to these shepherds that were destroying his flock. The displeasure of Yahuwah shall not turn back until he has done and established the purposes of his heart. In the latter days you shall understand it perfectly. I did not send these prophets, yet they ran. I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied. But if they had stood in my counsel, then they would have let my people hear my words. Yeah. If they would have, did you hear what he said? That's in verse 22. Jeremiah or Yirmiyahu, chapter 23, verse 22. But if they had stood in my counsel, then they would have let my people hear my words, and they would have not turned them, and they would have turned them from their evil way and from the evil of their deeds. I am an Elohim close by, declares Yahuwah, and not an Elohim far off. If anyone is hidden in secret places, would I not see him? Declares Yahuwah. Do I not fill the heavens and the earth? Wow. And then he talks about, in this same chapter, which is a chapter I'm really fond of, he says, I've heard what the peoples have said who prophesy in my name, saying, I have dreamed, till when shall it be in the heart of the prophets of falsehood, and prophets of the deceit of their own heart, who try to make my people forget my name by their dreams, which everyone relates to his neighbor, as their fathers forgot my name for Baal. Now that's what the Roman papacy has recently said, in 2008 I think it was, that it's forbidden for anyone to use the name Yod-Heh, in worship or in singing. And there's a verse right there in verse 26. Now that's interesting, because in verse 26 and 27, he says, these people, these prophets of deceit, try to make my people forget my name. Yeah. What? And they call him Baal, which translated into English is Lord, Lord. That's what a definition of Baal is. Is not my word like fire, declares Yahuwah, and like a hammer that shatters a rock? Wow. That's right there in chapter 23. It's amazing. Wow. He's stealing his words. It's reckless. Yeah. Oh, and there's one here in verse 33. He says, and when these people, or the prophet or the priest, ask you, saying, what is the message of Yahuwah? Well, that's asking, what is the gospel of Yahuwah? That's what it is. And how can you give someone the message without giving them the 10 words? Exactly. How can you do that? How can you leave that part out? You can tell them about Yahushua's sacrifice, his offering, his death, his resurrection, and to be immersed in his name for the deliverance of your sins and forgiveness of your sins. But if you don't tell them what sin is, which is the 10 words, they define it, then you're not going to be able to help them. You're leaving out the core of the heart of the whole matter. You know, and instead they're saying, oh, that was the old covenant. That's something we don't have to do, because you see, now we just are guided by his Spirit. Don't teach them anything. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing, brother.
Oh, and it says in verse 35 and 36, let me just read those real quick. This is what each one says to his neighbor, and each one to his brother, what has Yahuwah answered? And what has Yahuwah spoken? His words, But the message of Yahuwah you no longer remember. And each man's message is his own words, and you have changed the words of the living Elohim. There it is. See, it's overthrown. Yeah. Anyway, I guess it's getting late there. Wow.
Yeah.
And there's a little one. Hello there.
This is Luca. You can't hear that. Lou said hi.
Hello, Luca. Yeah. Hi, Luca. He's waving.
Yeah, it's like 2:15 in the morning.
Oh, we got started late. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we didn't know that. I was unplugging stuff and trying to work it out too.
Well, I better let you go to bed. So, but you're having a good Sabbath. I hope it's just you're tired now.
Yeah.
I'm just waking up. My day's just starting.
Yeah.
Well, I won't any more, brother. I'm sorry.
No, it's wonderful. That's what we're doing it for. Okay. That's great.
Okay.
When you guys put some of those CDs together for me, could you include the audio scriptures and things? I've got Matthew, but I haven't got Revelation or that old one Mike did on creation, things like that.
Okay.
I mean, if you don't have many and you need them, I'll send them straight back. I just need to.
No, you can keep them. Yeah, we'll make copies or originals, and we'll send all of it to you. We can.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to do that.
Great, because that'd be cool to have. Sometimes if people are going to sleep, they can have the radio on and they can have the scriptures, going for half an hour.
Do you have the actual link for that yet?
It's still. I think it's going to be a couple of months away, just because uploading stuff is slow.
Yeah.
You got to upload stuff onto the server. I've uploaded all my songs. There's about 55 odd songs there, and that's taken all week. And they're just short files. They're just songs. So to upload a whole TorahTalk in an hour or two.
So take a couple of months. Okay. Good to know. All right, I'll get those hopefully in the mail to you early next week. Because our Sabbath starts at sunset tonight. You're already having yours.
Yeah.
So Shabbat.
Yeah, you too, mate. Shabbat shalom.
Okay.
Well, I love you, mate.
Love you. We'll see you then next week, okay? Same time?
Yeah, we'll do.
Okay. Bye-bye now.
People, it's all or nothing now. You're either a weed or you are Donnell. You're breaking my heart with your unbelief. I ain't gonna wait forever. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? You're either hot or you are cold. And people, it's all or nothing now. I am speaking into your heart, but you're chasing shadows. We keep moving further apart. I'm so near and you're so far. Do you care now? Will you follow? People, it's all or nothing now. You're either a weed or you are Donnell. You're breaking my heart with your unbelief. I ain't gonna wait forever. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? You're either hot or you are cold. And people, it's all or nothing now.
Keep rejoicing, keep on loving, stay obedient till the world ends. See the fire coming closer, stay in worship till the world ends.
Do you care now? Will you follow? People, it's all or nothing now. You're either a weed or you are Donnell. You're breaking my heart with your unbelief. I ain't gonna wait forever. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? You're either hot or you are cold. And people, it's all or nothing now. all the wise shall shine like the brightness of the sky, leading souls into righteousness and truth, yeah, lifting up Yahusha in all they do.